All right, let's just jump right into it. Today, we are taking a deep dive into one of the most talked about, most persistent conspiracy theories out there, the flat Earth. And we're going to break down the core arguments, really get inside the logic, as it's laid out by one of the theory's best known proponents, Eric Dubay. Our goal here is to understand this worldview from the inside out.
And this quote is the perfect place to start because it gets right to the heart of the matter. From this perspective, the globe isn't just some scientific mistake. Oh no, it's a deliberate, massive deception. This one sentence really sets the stage for everything we're about to explore.
So first up, let's talk about history, or maybe I should say rewritten history. Because in this view, the globe model wasn't a discovery. It was the start of a 500-year-old lie, a lie they called the greatest deception in human history.
Now, this timeline is fascinating because it completely reframes what we learn in school. The idea here is that for pretty much all of human history, a flat, stationary Earth was just common sense. It was a given. The spherical model, which started as just an idea with Pythagoras, didn't really take hold until Copernicus in the 1500s. And then, you see figures like Galileo, Newton, and way later NASA. They weren't heroes of science, but key players in cementing this grand, multi-generational conspiracy.
And this all hinges on one central, philosophical idea, a battle between what you can see and feel for yourself versus what you're told to believe. The core message is simple, and honestly, it's pretty powerful. Trust your own senses above all else. And this chart just lays that conflict out perfectly. On one side, you've got your own personal experience, right? The ground feels completely motionless. You look out at the ocean and the horizon looks perfectly flat. The sun and the moon, they look like they're about the same size. But then there's the official story, the one that says you're actually spinning at 1,000 miles per hour on a giant ball and that the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon. The argument here is that to believe that official story, you literally have to abandon everything your senses are telling you is true. Okay, but that leads to the big, obvious question, doesn't it? If our senses are right, then what do you do with all the scientific evidence we have for a globe Earth? Which brings us right to our next section, debunking the globe. The idea here is to go through all those classic proofs for a round Earth, one by one, and dismantle them.
And where else would you start but with the biggest pillar of the whole globe model? Gravity. You know, the fundamental invisible force that supposedly holds us to the ground, keeps the oceans from flying into space, and locks planets in their orbits.
But here's the twist from the flat Earth perspective. Gravity? It doesn't exist. It's a fiction, a theory supposedly invented by Sir Isaac Newton, who they identify as a Freemason, to make his globe model work. The alternative is much simpler. It's just density and buoyancy. Things don't fall because of gravity. A rock falls because it's denser than the air around it. A helium balloon rises because it's less dense. That's it. All right, what about that classic textbook example? We've all seen the drawing of the ship sailing away, and it looks like it's sinking, hull first, over the curve of the Earth. That's proof of curvature, right? Not so fast. The counter-argument is that you're not seeing curvature at all. What you're seeing is just a simple optical illusion, the law of perspective. It's the same reason a long, straight road seems to vanish to a point in the distance. And the claim is that you can prove this yourself. If you take out a powerful zoom lens or a telescope, you can bring that entire ship, hull and all, right back into full view. It never went over a curve.
And to back this up, they often point to a real historical experiment, the Bedford Level experiment. The story goes that back in the 1800s, they measured a 6-mile-long stretch of super straight canal water. According to Globe Math, there should have been a noticeable 16-foot drop from one end to the other because of curvature. But what did they find? Zero curvature. The water was perfectly flat.
Okay, next challenge. A lunar eclipse. That perfectly round shadow that creeps across the moon. I mean, that has to be the shadow of a spherical Earth, right?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The counter-argument points to historical records of eclipses happening when you can see both the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time. Think about that. Geometrically, that's impossible if the Earth is in the middle, casting a shadow. So, what's the explanation? An unseen, mysterious celestial body, sometimes called Rahu or the Black Sun, that passes in front of the moon. So if you throw out the globe model and all its proofs, what are you left with? What does the world actually look like?
Well, that brings us to the real map of the Earth. It's not a planet, it's a plane.
Let's break down the key features of this model. It's a flat, stationary disk. The North Pole is the exact center. All the continents we know are ranged around it. And Antarctica? That's the real mind-bender. It's not a continent, it's a massive, 360-degree wall of ice that circles the entire known world, holding in the oceans. And what's beyond the ice wall? Well, that's unknown. Oh, and the sun and moon? They're small, local disks circling way up above us.
Now get this. The claim isn't that this map is some big secret. The argument is that it's been hidden in plain sight the entire time, right in the logo of the United Nations. They say it's basically a flat Earth map, and they even point out that it's divided into 33 sections, which they link to the 33 degrees of Freemasonry.
And what about all the other planets? Mars, Jupiter, Saturn? In this model, they aren't physical places you could ever land on. They're just lights in the sky, what the ancients called wandering stars. And they all revolve around us, around a fixed, stationary Earth that sits at the center of the universe. But all of this, every single bit of it, leads to the biggest question of all, the one you're probably asking right now. Why? Why would anyone create and maintain such a gigantic, elaborate lie for centuries? What could possibly be the motive?
Well, the theory proposes a three-part answer. First, it's financial. Organizations like NASA are called black-budget black holes, designed to fleece taxpayers out of billions of dollars for fake space missions and CGI pictures. Second, the motive is spiritual. It's about removing God or intelligent design from the picture and replacing it with a random, meaningless Big Bang, making humanity feel cosmically insignificant. And third, it's ideological. It's about setting up a class of scientific high priests who can tell you to ignore your own common sense and just believe what they tell you.
And this isn't just one country's conspiracy. Oh, no. The theory is that this goes all the way to the top, globally. That whole space race between America and Russia, the current rivalries with China, it's all just theater for the public. Behind the scenes, they claim, all these agencies are working together, collaborating to uphold this one single deception.
And this final quote from Dubay really just sums up the ultimate alleged goal. It's all about control. The argument is, if they can convince you that the ground beneath your feet isn't still, that the flat horizon you see isn't real, if they can convince you to abandon your own senses, then they can make you believe anything.
So after laying out this whole theory, we're not really left with an answer about the shape of the Earth. Instead, we're left with a much bigger, much more complicated question. In a world full of conflicting stories and dueling experts, how do any of us figure out what's real? How do we decide what, and more importantly, who to believe?